All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. Mike and Mark, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
good now.
All right, great, man. Hey, well, guys, Underdogs, thanks for hanging out with us. We thought we would talk a little bit of the hobby news that has definitely been sweeping Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our text chains since last night. It was about 10 o'clock last night. I was flipping around on Twitter and I noticed that the Athletic had announced the news about the acquisition that I think we all knew was coming. We just didn't know what it would look like, and that was Fanatics acquiring Topps. I have with me here Mike Sommer from the Waxpack Hero, who we're proud to sponsor, as well as a good hobby friend, Mark, who is not only a longtime collector and a long-suffering Cincinnati Reds fan, but also someone that lives in the private equity space. And Mark is going to provide a little bit of perspective on the business side of what this Topps and Fanatics deal look like. So, guys, I mean, were there any surprise? Did anyone have a shock face last night when you guys were on Twitter and saw the news, or was this what you expected?
One of the things that I had thought of from the beginning is I had a hunch that Fanatics would make a play at one of the current manufacturers, just because they're coming in from a brand new perspective. They have distribution, they've got some of those things, but what they didn't have is card manufacturing knowledge, design, card design knowledge, all of those types of things, the brands that people are used to collecting for the years. So whether it was Topps, whether it was Panini, or whether it was Upper Deck, I had a hunch that they would go after at least one of those manufacturers. And with the legacy that Topps has, it would seem to be a good fit for the brand that they would go after.
How about you, Mark? Were you surprised? I mean, was there a shock face?
Yeah, I mean, not that it happened, right? I think it was a relieved face as a collector. I think all of us, just have so much into the IP that Topps has had, and the thought of having to, start over again and not get to have some of the brands we know and love. I think that was not something I was looking forward to. I mean, I know we did it with Panini with basketball, and that worked out, on football, and that worked out all right. But man, Topps going away, this was not an exciting prospect as a collector. I think the shock face was on the headline number for me. Of the terms of the deal haven't been announced, but the $500 million number is what kind of really took me back. And I think we can talk about that because I don't. There's virtually no chance that Fanatics is writing a check to Tornate, Michael Eisner, and Madison Dearborn Partners for $500 million. But I think that's the beauty of what Fanatics has managed to do with the hobby, which is to consolidate the hobby to near monopoly standpoint without really having any assets to start with other than knowing who to call at the sports leagues for merchandising rights, and really expending no cash to do it. From a deal making standpoint, what they've done is just phenomenal.
No, it is definitely hobby next gen. I think right in front of us. I think the three of us, we all read Josh Luber's manifesto a few months ago. And I think it's playing out. I think he told us what was going to happen. And I think when you think about Fanatics' digital muscle and their e-commerce muscle, it definitely takes the hobby where it was destined to go. And that's not just, I think when people immediately go to this place of what does direct distribution look like and D2C. But Mark, I know you're a big digital collector. This is not just about physical cards. This is about NFTs. This is about digital trading cards. This is about creating a more holistic experience that doesn't just stop with what you pull out of a physical pack, what you pull out of a digital pack, and how the two interact. And that to me is probably one of the most exciting things, but it's also one of the things that I think we all wonder what the future looks like. Mike, as a journalist and a longtime collector, but also a shop owner, I mean, where's your head? How different does the hobby look 3 to 5 years from now with this deal going down?
Yeah, I think there's clearly a lot of speculation, and we're all guessing at this point on what exactly that means. But what I've latched onto from the things that I've heard Josh Luber say about his vision for the future of trading cards is that they're wanting to grow this hobby market and grow the number of collectors by something like 10 times, where it's at today, I think was a number that he had said. And for that to happen, you can't just focus on one specific segment. You're going to have to focus on building a collecting base. And that means you're going to have high-end collectors, and that means you're going to have entry-level collectors and kids and those types of things. It means you can't solely focus on direct-to-consumer or digital products, but you're going to need to have product available in brick and mortar stores, in gas stations and hobby shops and retail establishments like we see today. And so I haven't had quite this fear that all of the current retail distribution is going to go away and all of the current supply to hobby shops is going to go away. I've taken more of that let's wait and see. But from what they're saying is they want to build a whole ecosystem, not just grab the most profit that's possible.
Yeah, Mark, but you also know Michael Rubin. So where does Michael Rubin and Josh Luber connect on this when it comes to how Rubin's led his ventures today and where Josh's vision collides?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Mike that it's not a either or. It's going to be an adding to the pie. And they've looked at total addressable market, right? And they look at what the sports card market is today, and then they look and say what we think we can grow it to. And growth is the key. I think we're going to see them, frankly, do with sports cars what they did with sports apparel and sports merchandising. And that was consolidate the licensing and expand the distribution channels, bring the merchandise, make it easier for people to buy, league approved, player approved merchandise. And that's frankly been a benefit to all of us, right? I can order and have ordered team apparel, not just from, their stand at the airport, but, from my phone, from my room. If I want a old time Hartford Whalers hat, which I do, I buy it. And that's in large part because of Fanatics. And I think we can expect them to do the same thing here. I think there's virtually no chance that they look at this and kind of push the hobby owners, which frankly, all of us are vested in, right? Even if I don't own a shop, but I love supporting my local shops. It's a big part of the last, several decades of my life. And I think that you'll see them really build into that channel, as well as increase distribution and bring in new channels. The reality is they're going direct to the consumer. I just don't think that's going to be instead of hobby shops. I think it's an and solution.
I think so too. And the industry summit, Mike, Josh, definitely previewed that. Now I do think, and I'm curious to hear you guys' perspective, when you think about what Underdog does, I mean, we're just a little tiny rounding error versus some of the big guys out there. But I mean, if I'm a blowout, if I'm some of the guys, that to me, the industry changed overnight. If you're blowout, if you're Dave and Adams, maybe if you're even Steel City, right? I do think the community-driven hobby shop. I mean, we hope that they exist, but I do believe some of the bigger online players, it's going to look very different. I mean, we saw what Fanatics has done to Champs, right, which was a institution of our youth. But other than Dick's Sporting Goods, the sporting good landscape looks very different today. And even for Dick's, as big as they were, Fanatics has won a sizable chunk of market share.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that the distributors and some of those big online retailers are the folks that are going to have to adapt or change or be potentially impacted the most. I think that is where some of that current pain was being felt by folks trying to get cards and collectors trying to get cards and shops trying to get cards to be able to sell collectors. And so I think that those distributors and big online retailers are going to have a little bit less opportunity to influence the market like we're seeing today.
Yeah, totally agree. And that might not be a bad thing for us as collectors. The language that the Fanatics team will use is margin expansion. And they just look at everyone who touches the card, between when they create it and when it gets in our grubby little hands and we pass it around, for the next 3 decades. And they're going to look to cut some of those people out and take part of that pie. And again, in some cases, that's going to mean going more direct to consumer products, more digital products when they can get the whole pie. But again, I think they understand the value of the hobby shop in the ecosystem of the retail, of the retailer in the ecosystem. Going back to when we were all growing up, you could buy cards at Rite Aid and KB Toys. And so I do think we'll see some more of that kind of creative distribution in a way that doesn't take us back to a junk wax era, right? It's not like boxes of 1990 Fleer in every Shell station. But I think you'll look for them to increase the number of places where you can buy cards, points of distribution, but decrease the number of people who participate in the supply chain.
So Mark,
Yeah,
related to
Dave,
that,
along
and
those
Mike,
lines.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, along those lines, Dave asked a question. Do you think Fanatics will continue to drive prices up? You know, when we touched on it earlier, what they've said is they want to grow and expand the collecting base. And you can't do that solely focused on high-end products. You can't solely, you can't do that by having the only cards available be super expensive. You have to do that holistically at kind of all levels of the collecting spectrum. And so will there be some products that they continue to push the envelope and are super high end? I'm sure they will, right? But I think you're going to see an entry level product available, just like we see today with Topps opening day and some of these other types of products, so that there'll at least be some products available at all levels. What's that mean for those mid-tier products like Prism that used to be an entry level product and now is not? We had flagship Topps products, a hobby box being sold for $150 or $200 a box that used to be a $50 or $60 box. What's it mean for that product that used to be an entry level product that maybe wasn't over these last couple of years? I don't know, but I don't think we'll see them solely focus on high-end products.
Yeah. I think part of the problem of the past couple of years has been the inefficient distribution system, right? Because that $150 box of flagship, Topps wasn't, selling that. Topps wasn't getting 150 there. Topps was still selling it to the distributors for 32 or whatever. And the people not adding as much value in the supply chain were kind of the ones whose inventory all of a sudden had tripled or, gone up tenfold. And so I think with more distribution, I think Fangraphs will figure out a way to take more of that money, but also, frankly, this is the long game for them. It has to be. All these contracts they're doing with the leagues, the way they structure this joint venture, giving the leagues ownership in the venture. My guess is going to be when it comes out that 100% of what they're giving to Topps is going to be equity. So the owners of Topps are going to be partners. For this to work for them, it's a decades long game. It's not a, hey, let's try to raise the price of flagship to $170 and make it so, my son can't open a box.
There was a question in the chat as well, guys, related to this topic. I think pricing is on people's mind. Also, do we see more change? Do we see a Panini or an Upper Deck also be acquired? Or do we think that, hey, that the manifesto can live with a Topps acquisition for a while, and 2 years from now we see Topps Chrome basketball, we see Finest football to make its return, but Upper Deck lives its life, and so does Panini? Or do we think there's more consolidation coming?
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. I think the biggest thing they needed was some expertise and some brands that have been around that people are familiar with, and some intellectual property, right? Like, it would have been tough to come up with some new brand names that weren't already taken by some of the other manufacturers. The legacy that Topps has with football and basketball going back decades, I think would theoretically be enough to carry them forward and be fierce competition. I don't know what they gain from an additional manufacturer purpose other than some additional brands to roll out, but I don't know that those brands are necessary now that they're able to put all of the Topps Bowman brands with the different sports that they've acquired the licenses to. So I think it's a possibility, but I don't know that it's a necessity at this point.
Yeah, I concur. I think the big things they got with Topps, as Mike said, was the know-how, right? They were going to have to build a team from scratch, and they could probably do it. They probably could get people who know the marketing and know the sports and know the collectors. Can they find someone, who knows how to print serial numbering and holographic on stock? Yeah, probably. But now they just have that. And that's a big part of the value proposition. Again, I think from a deal standpoint, what they did is, the Topps SPAC, which was how, Topps was going to go public a few weeks ago, was valued at 1.3 billion, and Fanatics was able to get not everything. They're not buying the candy business from Topps, but almost all of Topps for 500 million in stock. Again, that's just from a deal maker perspective. That value is going somewhere, right? The value of trading cards is not evaporating. It's just going into Fangraph's pocket. Or sorry, I keep saying Fangraphs, Fanatics.
So, Mark, here's a question for you. How much do you think that Ruben and the Fanatics team saved by making the play they made, as opposed to acquiring Topps in the old world order that existed just like 4 months ago? Like what, or I guess it was 6 months ago. What would they have paid if we had not seen the deal with the players associations happen first?
Yeah, well, I mean, if the market tells us they would have paid at least 1.3 billion, right? Because that's what Mudrick was going to merge with them for. Again, the candy business was in there, and it's not in here, but that's probably a rounding error. Again, I think to me the genius part of this is they really started from nothing, and they've spent no money. So they've guaranteed leagues $1 billion through the course of a contract. They're the headline number for Topps is 500 million, but from a cash perspective, they've spent nothing. And they've actually raised $350 million of round A, Series A funding. So if you look at what Fanatics, their trading card entity is, it has $350 million, all these licenses, and it's paid nothing. Now, again, it will pay and it will make big investments, and that's coming, but it's just an amazing series of transactions from that group.
So last question, guys, because we have a few guys that want to break some cards tonight. But I've got one critical question for you guys. Mike, what is the one thing that you hope happens with this power merger? Like, give me your wish. Number one on the wish list as a collector. What do you hope to see happen?
My wish list as a collector is that this new entity, that this new approach that Fanatics has shared is going to, I guess, fix some of the supply chain / distribution / pricing issues that we've seen over the last few years. I hope that the analytics that they've got and are able to leverage from the rest of their branding is going to be able to find that better balance of supply of cards and the demand that cards have had, so that we can get as many cards into collectors' hands as possible without completely destroying the collectability and the value of that. I know that's a focus that they've got, and I think they're going to be putting some smart minds into it. And if they're able to do that, that means we're going to have some pretty cool products that we're going to be able to get our hands on that are still going to be worth wanting to get our hands on at the end of the day.
How about you, Mark? Other than Topps Dynasty, and what do you need from the deal, man?
I'm thrilled that we're going to be able to buy Topps heritage of the 80s products that a lot of us, broke for the first time growing up. The thought of going and, buying boxes of 85 Topps again, of having, loads of wood panel 87 Topps. I can't wait. I'm ecstatic about it. And I'm just thrilled that brand and, Topps Chrome basketball, all the brands that we know and love, that those are going to continue. Just the collector in me is really giddy. I kind of don't care who really gets the money from all of it. I just know as a collector, this stuff brings me joy.
Well, I'm definitely in that place. I mean, as you guys might expect, I really just need more 1987 Topps design. I really need 1987 Topps multi-sport is really what I'm looking forward to here about a year and a half from now. I think it's going to be huge. It's cool, guys. I'm glad to hear the excitement. I think Josh Luber is living like the sports card fantasy that we all would have charted out like 20, 25 years ago or more, right? He is coming in and saving the hobby that he grew up on. And I think there's a lot of us out there that can relate to that. And I think it's a pretty exciting time. We're not closing our doors. We're going to keep, we're going to ride this wave and enjoy it. And I look forward to enjoying it with you guys. I want to thank you guys for coming on. Look forward to hanging out with both of you at the National. For all of our viewers, I want to thank you guys for chatting with us for a few minutes. This is not our typical show. We are going to take the show down, and we will be back live breaking in less than 3 minutes. Mark, Mike, great to see you. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Scott. Always better than the underdog.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. See you guys. Have a great night.